Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. So this video was requested by another YouTube user who recently picked up a Sennheiser unit and they have a USB interface. Now, whether you're going into a USB interface to your computer or through a mixing board, then an interface to your computer, makes no difference, okay? Other than a few factors involved. There are a lot of USB interface boxes on the market that will support both a TRS quarter-inch jack connection or XLR. Now, TRS and XLR are the same, yes, but these boxes seem to be a little bit different. On the back of the box, which I will show you here, you have an XLR port or you have the unbalanced port. Now, unbalanced is not TRS, okay? So you want to have a balanced connection because you want the cleanest, purest signal. You're only going to get that from XLR. So I would avoid this connection unit altogether and straight XLR, okay? Now, your majority of interfaces out there will support TRS or XLR. You want to use XLR because, like I said, it's the best balanced and cleanest signal you're going to get. I have used the other port. It ain't so clean. And I found that there was an output difference too between the two. You get a much better higher output range through the XLR connection. Now, you'll notice over here at my Mac, I have a Focusrite box, and it has, it's the 2 and 4, okay, 2 in, 4 out. So your 2 ins are here. You have a separate gain control for each. You have pad controls. You also have line and instrument. So if you're going to plug an instrument into one, you have to put that switch to instrument to change the signal, in which case you're going to be wanting to use just your regular instrument cable. But for your microphone, you definitely want that XLR connection. And it doesn't matter which one you go into per se, because you're going to be usually cutting separate tracks, but even if you're cutting 2 tracks together as one track, then it's still going to be the same idea, right? But I like to look at this as this is the left and this is the right, because this is on the left side of the box. And I do the same thing through my mixer. My mixing board is actually going through its house out or main speaker out, because I'm not running powered speakers. Well, actually I am running powered speakers, but I am going through the main outs for the mixer to the computer, and I'm using my secondaries, which is my monitor out, to my speakers. Okay, so a little bit different connection points. But nonetheless, it's the way I have it wired. And I'll give you a close-up of the mixing board too. I'm not going to disturb this area, but it's the same thing. You would just take the cable from the back of the Sennheiser, plug it into here. But we're going to plug into the mixing board, and I'm going to show you something, because I think that it's better to actually have a small mixing board and going into the Focusrite for a couple of reasons. You need to know what your line level input is that's going on, right? Now, this Focusrite box does give us green and red, yes, but it's really not the best representation when you're going direct to the box, okay? When you're going from a mixer and in, that makes a difference, because then, you know, you need as much output as you can through the mixer without peaking the mixer. This way you can push more into the box, and then if you need to, you can turn the pads on. And because of a few devices I have hooked in, I have the pads turned on. So this way I don't overblast the input signal. So no matter what I do here, I'm not going to overblast here, and I can control my gain separate. But if you do not have a mixing board and all you have is this, then you will have to rely on the same sort of procedure I'm going to show you with the mixer, and that is to basically put as much vocal level as you can through that mic while you are adjusting the gain, okay? Meters are a lot easier to read than little flashy light bulbs like that, but again, it's up to you how you want to do it. I find a mixer is also better because you can save a lot of money by just buying a 2 and 4 box like this. Or even if it's a 2 and 2, it doesn't matter, as long as you have 2 inputs for left and rights, okay? Because a mixing board is going to open you up to a lot more channels you can drive in at the same time. So in the example of, if I'm in here, I can actually fit somebody on my drum machine, somebody on my keyboard, and me playing guitar and basically we have like a full band, right? So I can have that, and I have enough space in this room to support that many people in here. So we can all either cut separate tracks or we can cut one track at a time. But the big thing is we have all the extra channels here, right, available to us. So even if I have a guy who plays bass, I can fit him in the corner with the door shut. He can go sit by the door playing his bass, and I can have that person in. So I can have 4 things going in at the same time, whereas this I'm limited to 2 inputs, but I'm saving money because to buy a 4 input box, you can actually save money by just buying the 2 input and the 10 channel Yamaha mixer. You save money, so why not go for the savings, right? So let's go over to the mixing board, because that's where we're going to use our connection points here. And it's going to be the same process, so even if you're going to just plug into the USB box, that's fine. So you're going to want to grab your Sennheiser box, okay, or whatever headset you're using. You have an XLR connection right here, and you have an unbalanced one. You want to use the XLR because it's balanced and clean. You also have a switch on the back that says mic and line. You want that switch to the mic side, not the line, okay, because line would be here, mic is here, alright? And it does make a difference. And you have squelch control on a lot of these boxes too. I actually have my squelch. It's actually sitting somewhere around, I'd say about 1 o'clock. And what squelch is it, if you're not talking, no audio goes through. If you are breathing, it's not going to go through if the squelch is up higher, but if it's too low, people are going to be hearing you breathe through the speaker system, so I don't think you want that. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our XLR cable, and we have a male and a female end, okay? So, there's our male and female. Now, we're going to take the male end here, and that's going to go into our mixing board or our USB box. And it only connects one way because of the pin configuration. So that will go into an empty channel in this case. We plug the other end into our box. So that's now plugged into the box. And I'm going to see if I can change some angles a bit on this, but just give me a second here. So the power supply is next. So find yourself an empty power plug. Plug your power supply in. Plug it into the back of the unit. Some units will automatically turn on like mine does. Now you need to pick channel frequencies, the bank and the channel that is for your country. Because we have some limitations apparently on what channels and frequencies we're supposed to be using or not supposed to be using. I personally, I honestly could care less. I just use whatever, but I am actually on the Canadian stuff. Because I use this at the church, we want to have everybody on the same banks, but of course different frequencies, obviously. So anyway, on the box, you'll have a volume control, okay? And if you push it up, it says 8 and it goes to 9. The best setting I actually found on the Sennheiser Xs wireless 1 systems here is actually to have it sitting at 7. Okay? Now you can go through your channels and pick your channels, whatever, like I said, for your country, or use whatever you want. I don't really care what you use, it's up to you. Now you notice that there's also battery level indicator that keeps an eye on your transmitter. At both ends you'll have one on the transmitter, but you're not looking at it, you're the one singing, right? Or it's talking, but your tech board can keep an eye on your battery level to know when you're critical. You also have, when you're talking, there's a little speaker light here, and the antenna for the connection rate. So now, the next thing we want to do, of course, is to be able to turn on our transmitter. Now, initially when you start this off, have your volume level or gain at 0. Okay, now I've turned my volume down because the gain is up a little bit. I do have some speakers turned on in here as well. And so now we turn on our transmitter, and now we see that we have a little antenna light lit. Okay, So these are body pack systems. Now again, you can play around with your settings. I'm on the minus 10 dB, but you can switch over to minus 30. Now what this is it cuts back the signal. So you either want to go 0, which is wide open, so it's got full transmitting power, or you can reduce it a bit, and I would say nothing lower than minus 10 dB. Alright, and you have a sync button here to go between here and your Sennheiser unit. We're not worried about that for today. You can read your manual and figure all that out. It's not that difficult. Okay, battery level is kept up in here, tells us what bank we're on, what channel we're on. Now you also have mute control on a lot of these transmitters. So when it's red, it's muted. When it's green, you're active. So let me put this in my pocket and we'll put our headset on. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. So you'll notice here as I'm talking, you'll see that little flashy light. That's saying that the transmitter is connected to the receiver and transmitting. We have a good strong signal, so we're good and green, and that's awesome. So next thing we want to do is we want to be able to set our gain control. Now one thing that's a little weird about this particular mixing board is it only has a flashy red light on the mixer. So let me see if I can get you guys the right angle for this. I'm not sure if I can or not. I'm not even sure how well it's going to show, but we are on channel 3. And hopefully that helps a bit. So as I'm talking here, what I want to do is I want to raise the gain up, but I'm looking for the peak light indicator. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. That's giving me like nothing there. Okay, so I want to check my volume level. 1 2 1 2. So I am putting out volume. 1 2 1 2 1 2. You can hear my speakers in the background here going. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 1 2 3 1 2. So let's turn the volume off. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. I saw a little flash there. 1 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 3 4. So if I go to my house out here, 1 2 1 2 1 2, that does nothing for me. I have monitors, but if I hook up my let me just unscrew this light bulb. If I turn on my in-ear monitor system, I should be pushing a signal through here as well. So if we go 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 1 1 1 2 3, we're still in the green. We want to stay in the green and probably no higher than 0. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Now I can back that off as well. 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. Check 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 check. Okay, so we turn that off and we turn the volume off. Now what we want to do is we want to create a really loud sound through the microphone. Okay, that can be the loudest you can sing, or it can be something like yo. Now I can see on that I got some flickering. Yo, 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 yo. Now I'm going to put the mic right up. Yo, 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 yo. And I'm not even loud, and I'm peaking. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. So with the microphone right at my lips and just going at that 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, I'm looking for peaks to happen. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 1 2 3. So I'm raising my voice. Now if I put the mic back where it should be, 1 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2. Now of course you got to set your vocals to your voice, and for me that's going to be if I go by here, I want a little bit less treble, bit mess about here. 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 3 4. Check check 1, check 2, check 3, check 4. Now I'm looking and I'm saying, okay, I'm not registering anything at all on my Focusrite. So I want to go to the volume level here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm at 9, 8, 8, 8, 8, 7, 7, 7. Now if I bypass the pads here, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now I've got some signal going through, so I'm okay there. So I can put the pads back on, which is going to reduce the input into the computer. So I know that where I'm sitting at right now, I'm still not registering anything here, which is fine. That's not a big problem. We don't really care about that in total. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is going to be our level for our main in-ear system. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we don't have enough gain here. So I generally know that my gain is usually somewhere around the 12 o'clock area. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So we turn the house off. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So even though I'm full blast monitors here, I'm okay that way. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Because I want to be able to hear myself in my in-ears properly, but without overblasting my signal at the same time, right? So when we're looking at this, because I'm using pads and I'm reducing my input signal, I want to check again and see where I'm sitting at, and it looks like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so if I re-angle this camera for you guys, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So now we got a signal going through there that's pretty good. We're green lighting, we're fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll find variances between the left and right channel. That is completely normal. You're fine there. So the next thing I want to do is I want to say, okay, well, I'm doing really good here. I'm green lighting, but I want to add a little bit more gain to this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Good solid green lights. Both are going pretty much about the same rate, so that's really good now. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So turning off the house, I'm going to make a loud noise again with the mic in the place where it should be from my face. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm not even hitting the peak on that yet on the channel. So I'm going to say, all right, I can actually afford more gain. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So I peak it if I'm eating the mic. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And I think we're pretty much happy there. 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So let's check what's going to the focus, right? Now we're definitely, everything's good and green and solid, flashing really strong. And when we look at our in-ear monitor system, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. We're not overblowing anything, which is good, and I can cut that back to the in-ears as well. I usually have the monitor about here. Now I can hear a little bit of hollow feedback, but that's because of my speakers, and they're so close to me. They're also 400. I think these are like, what, 400 watts a piece. They're big speakers. They're PA speakers. But anyway, so we can cut that back there, which is not a big deal. When you cut back from whichever you're using for your house out, which house out here goes to my Focusrite, that does affect it. So you want to have the level probably somewhere around 10 o'clock, so you're still putting a really good strong signal out to the box. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so to know how well you're doing in the real world now, what we're going to do is we're going to fire up my computer with GarageBand, and I'm going to actually, where did I put it? There's my phone there. Okay, so because you're going to do a live recording, you actually don't want your speakers on at the time when you're doing this. So we're going to turn off the speakers. Okay, so now we have absolutely no audio coming from our speakers, which is what we want. Now, I do have to type in my password, so I'm going to just put you guys up there for a second. Alright, so now that we've got these things seem to be okay, we're not peaking, the microphone is far enough away from our face the way it should be, which I'll show you that in a quick minute. So I'm going to fire up GarageBand, and we're going to do basically a little bit of a vocal test. Because this is going to actually tell you where things are actually really sitting. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want a little bit more of my house. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So now I'm using the house to control, because I also don't want to overblast my green and go into red zones. So I can control that from the house, from the mixer, keeping my gains down. Now the pads right now are off. So if I turn the pads back on, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, I'm still getting green lights, which is good. We're still getting a decent signal here. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Because when you're singing loud, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Alright? So now let's go back here, and we can actually listen to the playback of our results and see what it actually sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want a little bit more of my house. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So I don't have to raise my voice when I push a bit more house through.
Because I also don't want to overblast my green and go into red zones.
So you get the idea how all this works, right? So that's actually a really good setup. Now, mixers that actually have a pre-fade listen circuit in them are really ideal, because then you would be seeing the meters on the actual mixer to set up your gear. In this case, you got to rely on a little red idiot light, and that's fine. But because I'm also on minus 10 dB on my transmitter, at least I should still be there, yes I am, I can afford more gain. The idea is you don't want to have to add a boatload of gain, okay? Because you don't want to really super blast things, but you do want to also have head space as well, or headroom in your faders, because your bottom controls are your faders. And this is a basic mixing board, like I said, so it doesn't have pre-fade listen type of thing. I'm not running aux channels. So now if I go to 0 dB on my transmitter, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm actually still doing pretty good there. And I don't see any peaking going on. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And I can now register here. I see I'm pushing a signal, which is good, and I'm still well below the 0. And that's just fine that way. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And we're looking at our green lights. Now if we take the pads off, this is where the problem happens. So if you look down here at the pads, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, they're hitting red peaks. So even though my mixer is not peaking, the input signal is peaking. And you need to have a certain amount of input signal to record properly, because you also don't want to overblast your audio files. So that's another part of setting these things up. And so we're going to go back to GarageBand for a second, and we're going to see what the pattern looks like when we're actually peaking the input of the unit. So let me just zoom out here. And we'll get rid of these two stupid things. 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 1 2, and I'm still hitting a lot of reds, and I'm barely even raising my voice up. And you can see the bar graph is so huge, right? That is like severely over blasting. That is way too much signal input to be going on. So that needs to be reduced. Now, you can do some reduction by adjusting the gain controls on your box. And that would pull it down more, and then you wouldn't need to use the pads to reduce the dB input. However, you have other alternatives which are less hassle, and let's go to -10. 1 2 1 2 3 1 2, and look at that, just one little flick of the switch on the transmitter, and we have a really good strong signal going through here now. This is really good, it's well within limits, and then if we did have to raise the volume level up on the clip, we have the head space to do that, okay? Which is why you don't crank your gains right up to the hilt either, okay? And back to the 0, okay? And this is bad. We're peaking the meters, and we're peaking, and now we're going to turn the pads on. 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3, and we're getting very similar heights to the same thing as if I just put my transmitter on to -10, and I'm actually on 0 right now. So if I go -10, 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. Now that's a very small graph there, and that would be something that you probably wouldn't want, because then you have to overblast the clip, and if you overblast your clip too much, you actually distort your file. So in this case, I would say, you know, right now we're at 10 o'clock on our gains on the Focusrite. Our house is pushing half of its level direct to the box. And of course we have our gain set at about 230 on our mic channel, and we have our main channel or fader set at 1 o'clock, and so we actually should be going 1 2 1 2 3, putting our transmitter at 0, and that gives us a good strong vocal area just in talking alone. We are still not blowing peak meters. 1 2 1 2 1 2, and I'm not even popping the peak light on the mixer, so that's actually really good there. And even by that large vocal I just did, which is right here that's being tracked, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Now we can raise it, or we'd be able to lower it. We have lots of headspace to deal with now in our recording, and this is all about getting a really good professional level recording without having to go into a pro level studio and paying them an exuberant amount of cash. So that's how everything goes. That's how it's all set up, guys. It's very easy to set up a headset into your Focusrite box. Now, some of you are going to be like, yeah, but you didn't show us the actual Focusrite box connection. You're quite right, I did not. So, let's actually do that right now. So, I'm going to unhook from the mixer. There we go. And I'll unhook one channel from here, and I'll plug the Sennheiser direct in. Okay, now let's fire up GarageBand. Okay, so now I'm right into the GarageBand here. Microphone. 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2. I'm not even registering. I'm on the pad, so I'll turn the pad off. Oh look, we have a heartbeat. So without touching my gains, that's what we've got. So 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2. I'm redlining there. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3. That is perfect in the green there. But to get that, of course, what happened here? Okay, let's start that track back over. 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 4. And of course we're only getting one channel. We're not getting stereo because we only have the left side. This is why you don't want to try and do any kind of, here's my mic, here's my instrument, because you don't have the left and right control that way, right? This is why going in through a mixer and then going left and right is the ideal, perfect way to do it. And going through this way, if you're going to try and sing audio, you're not getting any control over your vocals for bass, mid, and treble. That was something you'd have to totally edit afterwards. So you're going to be going in at flat response no matter what. Again, a mixer is the best way to have a mixing board. Go it into your USB box, into left and right, then into your computer. Then you can control everything. Now, instruments like pianos and drums, you don't mess with the bass, mid, and treble. You always leave them at flat response. Guitar would stay at a flat response as well for the main input going, for when you're recording. Playing live is different though. You know, with your vocals, you can either pre-do your vocals and then do other tweaking later with bass, mids, and trebs, or you can have your vocals go in flat response. But you still need to have left and right because you need to have your vocals in both channels. And right now this does not record in both channels this way. So we have to go mono. Now if we switch this over, let's go to the Scarlet box and see, right now it's set for 1 and 2. See, can I do this when I'm already... Actually, I'm going to have to quit the program. So don't save. And we want an empty project. And input is 1. Create. One, two, three. Now we get a left and right for one single input. But that's one input. That's it. Okay? And so now this is at least going to put us left and right panning, which is fine. But again, not the best solution, but at least you can still do it this way. I personally recommend use a mixing board. Alright? For the amount of money they cost, which is cheap, you're best with a mixer going into your USB box and then to your computer. Then you get full control over everything properly, and you have that full out stereo signal going in all in one shot instead of having to monkey with it later, which can be a real pain in the neck to do. So 1 and 2 is where I like to be with this, and we go in and voila. So now you see there's choices too. In the case of GarageBand, you have the microphone input or other input sources. I actually run all my instruments right through the mic input source of this, and I'll do separate tracks because it's just the least amount of hassle for me. It doesn't change anything about the sound doing it that way. It's just, it's a lot easier and less hassle. So as you can see, when you plug your headset direct into the Focusrite, my volume is up on 7 for the output of the transmitter to the Focusrite, which is quite high. And I still had to crank a little bit past 1 o'clock, closer to 2 o'clock, just to get a nice, good, clean, solid signal. And even with the pad off, it's not a fantastic signal, but it is there. Okay? And that's a bit of a pain that way. So, but that's how you hook things up, either way. It's how it's all done. It's all how it's hooked up. You can do as you want. I prefer the mixing board method, where we hook a mixing board in, because you get even that much more preamp control going into the Focusrite ahead of time. And then if you do need to mess with your gains or your pads, you can do that at the end of the Focusrite once you get a preset level here that you're happy with, and you have still lots of headspace for being able to boost more through if you needed to, and you can get a more balanced mix. Because not everybody's running at the same levels either. A piano may have to be, you know, like my piano's over here. So my piano is actually set at 11 o'clock. My microphone is basically about 1 o'clock, 1:30ish almost. My Beat Buddy is actually set at about 11. My drum kit is set at 9. And that's how I balance these instruments through here. We still haven't even gotten into my guitar yet, plugging my guitar in. But I do that through the Katana amp source generally, okay? That's how things are done, guys. And it's very easy to hook this stuff up. It's not that hard. Anybody can do this. Instructions, although they're nice, they're not always the best. It is nicer to see different ways to hook things up as well, which I totally agree with. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope the guy who asked for this video has enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. I know it's a lengthy one, but hey, it covers everything. I'm pretty sure. If I missed something, do let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, do comment on the video, let me know what you thought of it, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.